Hey people, I'm ZSH Plays, welcome to the Lost World. This week we're going to add the Tyrannosaur Nest, but before we do that we have 3 new dinosaurs to add into the park. The first thing we're going to do is build the high hide, where the characters watch the dinosaurs from, and this area of the river here, where the dinosaurs come to drink. This is also where the don't go into the long grass scene in the film and the book is set. So as always, lots of terrain painting around the edges of the water. I'm going to put some game trails in as well for the areas where the dinosaurs would walk down to the water, and just generally make it look as beautiful as possible. So last week we added in the Pachycephalosaur, Triceratops, Stegosaurus and Carnosaurus. This week, before we get to the T-Rex, we're going to add in Maiasaur, Pachycephalosaurus and the Gallimimus. So we're going to have a lot of dinosaurs in here, and as I said last week, there's no fences or anything like that, so we're just going to let nature take its course. So let's talk about the new dinosaurs. So I'm particularly excited about Gallimimus. This is the one dinosaur that we couldn't add in our previous Jurassic Park recreation because it's not in the book, but happily, according to Michael Crichton's The Lost World, the Gallimimus was created on Isla Sorna here, and I think, if I remember correctly, that was the source of the disease that affected the dinosaurs here that caused them to release them into the wild. So they were Gallimimus on this island, they just hadn't been transported to Jurassic Park yet. So we're going to get those in a minute. But first we need to build the high hide itself. So there's no high hide prop in the game, so I figured that this Jurassic Park era viewing tower would be the closest match to it. So I'm going to put this in here, and then we'll surround it with forest to sort of disguise the fact that it's obviously a lot more elaborate than a hide would be. They brought this to the island themselves so that they could observe the dinosaurs, so it's obviously not a permanent structure like this, but there's no way to replicate that in the game, and it does look pretty decent once it's all finished. So we'll take a look at the view. It's still a little plain, could do with a lot more rocks and things like that, so we'll add a load of those in. And thank you all for your comments on the last episode, always good to read those. And a big thank you to Gustosaurus, who pointed out that if I turn storms on in sandbox mode, then the buildings in the manufacturing facility and worker area that we built last week will get damaged, so we can then just leave them damaged and they will look more like the Lost World, which is brilliant. So thank you very much for that comment. You will see the results of that in the next episode, where we're going to have all the buildings, or as many as I can get, damaged and decayed, sparks flying out of them and just looking like the derelict buildings that they should be. It's a shame I can't overgrow them with moss and vines and things like that, but there's just no way to do that without using mods, and I don't use mods on this channel, so there won't be any of that. Nearly finished putting the rocks in here. If you watch my channel, you know I'm a big fan of placing rocks everywhere. It's a really good way of making things look good and more interesting. And I'm just going to expand this game trail here as well to give an impression of where the dinosaurs are coming down to the water to drink. Little details like that really bring scenes like this to life. You just cannot have enough different terrain paints, rocks, foliage, etc. when you're playing this game. Doing some more terrain painting as well. We're going to have an area of rock here to put a load of the actual rocks in, and then I'll tidy that up with a bit more dirt and things like that. Add some sand in. You want a real mix of textures to make things look good in this game rather than just a giant expanse of green. And then let's take a look at the finished article. So I've moved a load of the dinosaurs from the other end of the island down to here. I'll be adding even more soon, and I'm going to make the herds of dinosaurs much larger so it can really feel alive. Now let's move on to the next part of the park, which is the Maiasaur Nest. So in the novel, this is the first place that the hunters come to steal eggs, which they do successfully, which gives them the false confidence to then go and try and do the same thing in the Tyrannosaur Nest, which is less successful, shall we say. So I've put a load of forest in right next to the road, and I'm going to make a clearing in the middle of it, and then paint that in so that we've got somewhere for the Maiasaurs to live. And if you're really careful with the terrain paints in this game, you can sort of have individual trees and logs and things like that, You just can't choose exactly where they're going to be, and you'll see a lot more of that when we build the Gallimimus Fields. So let's get the Maiasaurs into the park. These guys are so goofy looking, but I do have a soft spot for them, and they do look pretty cool walking around in their little nesting site. So let's move on now and take care of the Gallimimus field. So I mentioned about trying to get one plant or log or whatever in place, and that's what I'm doing here. I want to replicate the scene in Jurassic Park where Grant and the kids hide behind the giant log when the Gallimimus are flocking this way. So I just want this solitary log right in the middle of the paddock, and then I'm going to do some painting, etc. around it so that we get all the colours right, etc. But yeah, I just want that one log there on its own, which took quite a while, but we made it in the end. I say it's on its own, it is in terms of foliage, but obviously we've got to have rocks. Lots and lots of lovely rocks. I've made sure there's a gap in the foliage for the Gallimimus to get through, and we'll do a bit more terrain painting as well. Then I'm just going to add a bit of scrub here and there, but no big plants. And then let's get the Gallimimus in. So good to have these guys in the park after missing them in Jurassic Park. They look amazing walking through all the landscape that we've created. Just time to transport the Pachycephalosaurus, and then we'll move on to the Tyrannosaurus Nest. So we're on the opposite side of the high hide to where we just were. This lake is just part of the default in-game map, so we're going to get rid of that and set this area up for the Tyrannosaurs. So I'm going to get rid of most of the grass. I want this to look like it has been well trodden and beaten down by these enormous dinosaurs. We're going to add a depression here where the nest is going to go. So just digging down to the level that I want it to get to, and then we'll use the flatten terrain tool to widen it out so it's big enough for them. And we'll try and get rid of most of the foliage and then paint this back in to make it look more natural. The events that take place here in the novel are a little different to the events in the film, but the end result is the same. A baby Tyrannosaur with a broken leg being taken back to a trailer and lots of dead people. I would love to recreate the scene with the trailers falling off the side of the cliff, but there is absolutely no way that you can do that in Jurassic World Evolution 2, so we will have to leave that scene unmade, sadly. But I'm just using loads of different rock and dirt textures here to make this feel like a place where the Tyrannosaurs are spending a lot of time. And I'm going to use rocks to sort of make the nest. It's a mound of dirt in the book, which you can't really do in the game. But I figure a lot of birds make nests out of pebbles. And if you're a T-Rex and you're like 20 foot high and 40 foot long, then a rock is basically a pebble, right? So we're going to add 2 T-Rexes in, same as the book and the film. One in the Lost World male colour, one in the female colour. And then we will take a look and see what the finished article looks like. Next week we're going to tackle the Velociraptor nest and finish the park. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you then. Thanks for watching.